What is popping, guys, and welcome back to yet another tattoo POV session. Today we are doing this Indian chief skull. However, the purpose of today's POV, I always get the question of what I do when I know that I am not going to finish that session. Do I re-stencil? Do I line? What do I do if the client has to come back for future sessions? How do I approach it? Well, in today's POV, that is what we are going to be talking about, how I approach this particular tattoo. As you can see, it is a extremely detailed and big tattoo. There was absolutely no way I was going to get this finished. So, first of all, I start off with lining. Now, the reason I started off with lining on this particular piece was the fact that aside from the skull / face and the feathers, everything on here was an object. Starting down the bottom, you can see it's a type of chain. Now these have harsh edges, so lining at this particular point is absolutely fine. I know that once the actual shading goes in, the lines aren't going to be visible. Now when it comes to lining, obviously I need on the heel for those lines still to be visible. So I use anything from a light to a medium. It depends on whereabouts, you know, on the image that I'm tattooing. Now, although the lines do look pretty dark when you're lining in at first, I promise you that on the heel, they will not be this dark and you will lose a lot of the darkness. So do not worry if your lights are looking pretty dark. I promise you that on the heel, it will be absolutely fine. Now I know a lot of you are going to be asking what machines I use, what needles I use, what voltage I use, etc, etc, etc. So the machine that I was using for this particular piece is a brand new machine. I am using this machine for the very first time and it is called the Imala. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. It's called the Imala Grand. A review is coming on this particular machine, but that's the machine I am using. The needles that I use for this particular tattoo were my usual, a 3-round liner, a 5-round shader, a 9-round shader, a 9 curved mag bug pin, and a 13 curved mag bug pin. I ran the machine at between 8 volts and 8.2. Now when it comes to doing this, you can see that I'm lining around just the outside of the basic shape. I am not lining in any of the, you know, the tonal lines that I put in where the tone starts and the tone finishes. The only time I am doing that is if the tone in question is actually black, in which case I will line around it. Now, when you're doing it like this, you don't necessarily need solid lines. You aren't going for solid lines at this point. You're not going for single pass perfect lines all the time. You are literally just putting enough in so you can carry on. So do not worry about your lines being perfect. That's not what they are for. So here I am working on the neck portion. Now, as you can see, the skull and the neck hasn't actually been lined. Everything else has been lined. Aside from the fluffiness of the feathers up the top, everything has been lined. Now, I wanted to leave the neck and the skull because at this point, there was still enough time in the day to get enough into that skull for me to be able to carry on next session. That way, I am not lining and I am not taking away any part of the realism by putting a line where it shouldn't be. Now, as I started work on the bottom of the jaw, I just wanted to get the textures in. So I concentrated on those textures with a 9-round shader and a 5-round shader. If the textures are there and it makes sense to put them in, I'm going to put them in. I just won't leave them off. At this point, I also want to point out that I've also been asked about touching my iPad while I am working. Now, I used to wrap my iPad, however, it made it increasingly difficult for you to be able to see the actual piece that you was working from. So all I do is when I need to move the iPad, like anything else, is I just deglove. Get the positioning on the image that I need, and then glove back up and yeah, get back to work. Little bit of Watchmen in the background. Highly recommend if you have not seen that movie, by the way. The Watchmen is an incredible movie and a completely different take to the generic Marvel DC superheroes that we get these days. Now, as I said, I took the decision to line this piece in, aside from the skull and the neck, because it is mainly object. Now, if you're presented with a piece where you don't have object and you are, let's say, just doing a skull and you can't put lines in there, then I would do the piece as normal and I would get to a part of the area where it is easy to re-stencil. You don't want to be leaving off if you know that you're going to have to re-stencil on a hard area. That means you want to get that nose in, you want to get those, you know, those eye sockets in and those eyes. You do not want to be trying to re-stencil those, because you're just going to make it harder for yourself. So you might as well map them in. If you want to do the piece and get as far as you can and then just re-stencil, it is incredibly easy. I have re-stenciled in some of the worst areas and some of the hardest, you know, most complicated tattoos. I've been able to re-stencil. You might not get it first time, but I pretty much guarantee you'll get it the second time or the third time. But please do leave it off in a nice area. For example, if I was to do that on this particular piece, I would leave it off at the top of the skull, so then I could line up the top of the skull with the bottom of the headrest and, you know, get it stenciled on easy. So when I'm mapping in, I am just getting the basic shapes of something. I'm getting the basic eye in, I'm getting the black in, I'm getting the basic tone in that holds the shape of the piece together. At this point, I'm not so much worried about getting, you know, nice blends. I'm not so much worried about getting it smooth. The only thing that I am concentrating on at the minute is getting in the basic shape and the basic tone. That is it. Same with getting the nice blends. Those can be done at a later date also. But as you can see, it's coming together quite nice. I've got the eye in, I've got the jaw in, I've got that nose in. Now it's just working on that left hand side to get that other eye in. Then everything is there. There's enough information in the piece then for me to be able to pick up this tattoo and carry on like I never left it. But guys, that is pretty much in a nutshell me mapping in this piece for a future session because we wouldn't have had time to finish it today. I hope that has answered some of your questions. But guys, I will see you all in the next one. If you are new around here, do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Do not forget to like this video, drop a comment on this video. You know, it really does help push out the channel, so that really would be appreciated. If you subscribe, do not forget to turn on the bell to get notified every time I upload a new video. But guys, peace out, much love, see you soon.